Welcome to the World United. Welcome to the World United.
All right, so I am now going to bring our final speaker for this session in, and that's Vicki O'Leary. And Vicki is committed to the evolution of humanity through spiritual education. As an author, piano speaker, and inventor, Vicki's passion is always about assisting humanity in evolving to be even greater and more connected than ever before with each other, the planet, and all life. For the previous 10 years, she has been engaged in her own business, teaching children meditation, breath work, and focus in schools in Australia and the US, being clear-minded for life. Her current passion is the College of New Thought, a large body of work focused on bringing new thought onto the planet at this pivotal time of change. And Vicki's topic for us tonight is Embracing New Thought, How Consciousness Can Touch the Edge of All. Welcome.
What I've been developing in the last few years is a large body of work which is basically teaching humanity how to be responsible creators and to understand their capacity to take thought from an extraordinary echelon of consciousness. So what I'd love to do today is just to expand on that with our little group and then with anyone who's listening to this. So if we could imagine that inside all of us is the kernel of knowledge that holds infinite, and that's an understanding through all the bodies of our beingness that we are. That infinite state is a place where we can take our mind in any moment and touch a conscious awareness of who we are beyond the beyond the light fields, beyond the edge of the earth, beyond the solar system, beyond the universe. You can go into the multiverse and you can go through an event horizon. You can go even further than that. You can be so much further than you could ever imagine in consciousness. And the beauty of that is that we have the capacity to touch that now. So our awakening is not just to awaken to a new consciousness of humanity and a new earth. It's to bring grandiose brilliance to our reality here now. And the further that we take our mind, the further that we explore as these galactic beings that are housed in form in the human positioning, the further that we go, the more wondrous our reality is going to become. So everything is in a flux of change of potentials, but what we have is the potential to be an anything right now. And that anything is where the gift of our lives becomes so divine. So the joy of expression, I've been around the traps for a while in consciousness. I've channeled, I've listened to channels, I've been part of it. I've done a lot of that. I've got tons of books, thousands and thousands of hours of work that have been presented and contributed to this consciousness on the planet. And where I've reached is a limit. And the limit was, I don't have anywhere else to go now. So if that becomes part of a consciousness, it indicates that there is somewhere else to go, because the limit is just an arbitrary concept of reality. And what we have is so much more. So everything I've been doing in this whole year, every week and month, is drawing on the aspect of consciousness that presses us beyond the known, beyond all of the knowns, beyond every great conscious being that exists on this planet and beyond, and pressing further into that so that where we end up is touching unique ideas and placing an awareness that humanity, the beautiful divine humanity, is not just a galactic race. We are extraordinary. We are so extraordinary that we have a mind that can go forever and beyond. Now, if we have that mind, and I'm testimony to it because that's the whole body of work I've done, as you would if you just line up and go, I know that I can know everything. And if I can know everything, I can also gravitate to entities that are billions of years in consciousness with myself, and I can vibrate, think about that frequency Angela's touched, I can vibrate at that frequency with those entities and exchange, because the oneness is in that state, in that communique, exchange knowledge together, hold that knowledge together, and then birth from the origin of all life something that doesn't exist anymore, that has not even been conceived of. So we live in a polarized reality that's transitioning to a fifth dimension, if that's the way we want to speak about it, and it's known, and it's been predicted and prophesied. And it's beautiful, and the planet is thriving with this change. The earth is shining, we're shining. But what if we also have the capacity to know that we can reverse spin an atomic structure and create something that doesn't even look like polarity anymore? And we then could become a three-dimensional being in an alternate polarized reality, because we have a consciousness that can take us anywhere. And the structures of reality, the paradigms of reality, the extent of reality, the creation of reality is at our fingertips if we could open ourselves to these adventures. So what I saw, I too see the future of the earth. I've seen it for many years, as have our other speakers here. Now, what I saw is this dire need that when we are in this new dimension and things just settle down, these beautiful humans, they don't know what to do with themselves. They're so used to adversity that they're going to want to just keep creating more adversity. So they open out to something that says, well, I don't have to fight against my brothers and sisters anymore. What am I going to do with my mind? How am I going to think? And so everything is about new thought and drawing that through to us, so that what we've got is a new adventure. And that new adventure takes us into the galaxies. It takes us into interstellar communication. It takes us through wormholes. It takes us beyond anything that we've experienced. And the reason that I know that is because I love this planet, and I love the exploration of my mind into realities that have not been touched. And I also love knowing that everything that we are contributes to what we are. So we're contributing in thought to this reality here. So if I could create this platform of new thinking, touching the beyond, and introduce that to come here now, what we've got on Earth is an adventure far beyond the prophecies, far beyond the concepts of what it's thought that it's going to be. And of course, it's going to be divine, because we've already played everything that wasn't. So it's not going to be backwards, it will be forwards. It's exciting. And there's so many of us on the planet, channels of consciousness or connected to galactics, councils, whatever you want to say. There's so many of us here. Now, did we just come to uplift the planet and to evolve it? Or did we actually come for something else as well? And I'm about that something else. I'm about, what if we want to hang around after this ascension, after this shift? What are we going to do then? Are we going to keep channeling all that information and say the Earth's going to change? Or have we got something new that we're meant to be part of? So all I am right now is touching the edge and pushing it and saying, what is original thought that has never been conceived of before in any dimension? What is it that started creation in the way that we understand it? And what is it that's beyond that? It seems very far-reaching, but what I love is that I'm just like you guys. I'm a mom, I have a house, and a property which is sitting behind me. And I have issues which I enjoy working through, similar to Bobby and that beautiful sunflower that she spoke about, that harmonizing state, controlling the mind, getting it back into its presence. So I have all that stuff as well. But I also have a mind that can go very, very far, and it thrives in that state. It thrives like nothing I can explain. And if I have that mind and we're frequencies, then that can come to this planet and be part of our adventure into the future. So Earth is the emerald. It is the jewel of the universe. But what is it in another universe? And who are we in those universes? Are we through those portals? And can we touch what's beyond there and bring it here? And what happens then? So I just wanted to introduce this today. I just wanted to bring it to the surface that we've got much greater concepts waiting for us on the other side of this transition. And it's about anchoring those seeds into the planet now so that the new thinking of what's coming is here for it to blossom when these fluxes start to settle somewhat. That's probably the majority of what I want to speak about, and I'm thanking you so much for listening. What I've spoken about is all in a concept of reality called the College of New Thought. It's an online course that you can go to, collegeofnewthought.com. There's also a School of New Thought that we've put together in the last 12 months for children, and that will be ready next year as well. And it's about respecting ourselves as creators and humans, with divinity as our primary understanding. It's about respecting that we belong in the echelons of creation. And it explains and talks about how creation, time stamping, geometry, everything about it, councils, galactics, everything is incorporated into that. And it's how new thinking can be born of that. Not telling you what's there, it's bringing your consciousness there so that you contribute new thought to this world and to beyond. And I'm super excited about it. So that's me. If you want to know more about my work, there's a lot of books that I've written, and Vicki Electra, VICKIELECTRA.com is the simple way to find out all of that, including the College of New Thought. So thank you. That's me and what I'm doing.
Thank you, Vicki. Wow, what a profound presentation. And I love when you're talking about, touching the edge and pushing and pushing. And it reminded me of something in a very simple way. I'm quite the Star Trek fan. And in Star Trek Next Generation, one time they discovered people from the 20th century who had been frozen for a bit. So they brought them on board the Enterprise, and the one man especially was like a stockbroker. And he was all about, I've got to get to my phone and I have to check all, like this whole routine. And the captain was trying to explain to him that, first of all, that technology was way old. And then it was like, well, what do you do? What do you do now? And the captain said, well, we don't really work for money. We have, we evolve spiritually, we evolve in that way, mentally and morally. And the man was just, like totally dumbfounded. But I hope that example doesn't offend you, but it reminds me of what you're talking about, how we get locked in thinking this is all we are. And it's not. We are so much more beyond that. I remember as a child just laying on my back and thinking and looking up at the sky and thinking, I wonder where it ends. And if it ends, what's beyond that? Like these questions, and that you're working with children and setting up the school and introducing these ideas. It's awesome. It's very powerful. Very, very powerful. I thank you. And let me, I think, in my last screen share here, let's see. Oh, let's see if I get this right. We keep going to Angela. There you are. Our thanks, our certificate of appreciation. And that will be emailed to you for participating in the stop share. And so I want to open this now to discussion. And in addition to questions that I might have for each of you, please, I like to encourage, thank you for posting that website. I like to encourage the speakers to ask questions of each other and interact. I have found that each session has been phenomenally synchronous. You know, the choice of speakers that come together and the information, and it's like you're not knowing of each other or what you're going to speak, and yet it comes together and harmonizes. And I wanted to share with Angela, when you talk about the harmonies coming together, create a greater picture, Grandmother Parrish has shared in the introduction about fingerprint. We each have a unique fingerprint, and we're all part of the greater picture. And if any of us is missing, then it's not complete. And that reminded me, and also to acknowledge that we all have Indigenous connections, because we do. We've simply, you know, as you say, we've gone away from them, we've forgotten them, but to begin to honor them and come back to that truth, because that is a major part of this. As I said, do any of you have questions for each other?
Yeah, I have something. I was just you're talking about the harmony of people and the fingerprints of people. We also have, and I'm sure Angela will agree with this one, harmony of our voice. So we might get pods or groups of people together that are high vibrational, and the voices, when they sing in the om together, can actually ignite portholes to open up the pineal gland as well. And there's also somatic patterns that the pineal gland actually has within inside. It's only possible to interact into that sort of dimension, into the portholes, once we have balance within our mind, because you can't walk into these other frequencies without this unwarring mind. But the pineal gland has little tiny crystals in it. This is what I was told. And I actually got a big clue from my 4-year-old daughter. And she said, we come from a place called Anyon. It's where everything is everything, but we live in our minds now, Mummy, but we also live in Anyon as well. You can look it up, but you have to thank me for this one. And Anyon was a particle in quantum physics that resided in 2 spaces in fermion or boson, which is light or material. And the pineal gland, when we're chanting oms and so forth, like the Tibetans, will ching into, when it's clear from fluoride and everything, ching into these beautiful somatical patterns through the vibration. And when we get a harmony of people together that are working in synchronicity, they can also open up these portholes into these new experiences together as well. And also the funny thing that you brought up about the stones, when you're standing on the stones, because I was gifted a story about finding stones, and each stone had a new vibration. There was specific ones around the earth that had this vibration. When they all came together, they could open up portholes as well. So really interesting coincidences with the vibration and the messages that I've been given.
I'd like to add to that, because that's, so on par. And Dev, I mean, what you said about everybody is so synchronized with what we're talking about today. It truly is. It's pretty awesome. One thing I was going to add when I was talking before, and it's back to the frequencies actually, is when I was pregnant with my child, who's now 2, And I remember going on the back deck and I was starting to get these skipped heartbeats and I was like, what is going on? I haven't had this for ages. And then I actually stopped and I listened. And as I listened, I heard my child's sound and I could see them. And it was at that point I just went, okay, cool. So my body's having a little bit of a SPAC moment here and just thinking, what's this other sound doing in here? And so I basically amplified my own frequency, but at the same time, as amplifying that frequency was allowing the other frequency to become part of my cellular being. And I knew that when this child was coming, I remember saying to my husband, she's coming from so far away. We need to be so conscious because she's like that radio station that we're trying to tap into. You know, when you used to have the old analog radios and suddenly you're hearing the radio from Bulgaria, you know. Yeah. But it's such an important part of who we are, is actually recognizing that oneness that we have and actually the power of the thought process. And you just need to think the sound and you're there. And it's all coming together to harmonize. And I think it's that simple, you know, just to be able to go, right, I can hear it. Mm-hmm. And you're in it. Yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to share that as well because gosh, I think we're on so many same wavelengths here. It's amazing.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And also around the earth, there's specific places that Gaia has that will open up more and more. The more our pineal glands start to activate, the more those opportunities dotted around the earth will also activate. So it goes together as one symbiotic thing with Gaia herself and humanity. So they told me that we're almost like neuron paths of Gaia herself. And the more we become aware of ourselves and the magnificence of what we can create, the more she responds to that creation as well, because it's the body of who we are. And it's really interesting when you get into it.
Well, I really believe we exist interdimensionally, that right now I'm physically right here, but I'm actually existing in multiple bodies in different situations. And really, is this the present, the past, the future? It doesn't really have a title, to be honest, but we live in a world where the language is quite limiting to our overall experience of things. It's like, you know, someone turns the lights on and suddenly you see things for what they are. When you start to recognize that we are multidimensional beings that exist on multidimensional existences.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I agree with that as well.
I have a question for Gloria. And Gloria, when I saw that you direct and produce children's theater, I'm wondering, do you incorporate what you've talked about? Do you incorporate that enlightenment with the plays that you do with kids? You bring that together?
That's a great question. Again, most of us have looked back into childhood and realized that we've been having evidence of being light workers and being woo-woo for a very long time, all of our lives. At least I'm talking about this lifetime. And yet, it wasn't until the harmonic convergence, 1986-87, that huge downpouring of activating light and ascension templates, you know, just being activated, and those of us that in some formal way still needed to have okay, I'm awake. That doesn't really go down very well in a corporate educational structure, okay? Lightworkers, most of you are aware of the profile, include that we don't do very well with authority figures. We don't do well in hierarchical top-down type structures. We are sensitive, empathic. So I never fit in, you know, as a child all my life. You know, the story is all there on on my website. Most of us quantum healers have our entire story on the website to inspire others so that they know you too can transcend feeling that I don't belong on this planet. I don't fit in. I don't know why I'm here. It's too violent. It's too dense. It's too... So when I could close the classroom door and not have to deal with principals or administrators or colleagues who thought I was too weird, the kids and I did our magic together, right? The kids and I could just dive into this realm of... Most of the kids in drama and the creative drama classes that I taught and did, they didn't do well in the left brain, logical brain, academic setting, which my school was a cross between, if you know Australia, you know Victoria, the state of Victoria, Geelong Grammar and a United Nations school. That's the kind of school I was teaching in. It was an international school in Kuala Lumpur where I did most of my theater directing and producing. And these kids didn't do well in academic subjects. And I'm sure those of you that have worked with kids or in settings where people feel that they never did well in school or in academic settings, they are the most compassionate. Their hearts are wide open. They're longing for some kind of self-esteem and self-worth opportunities. That's what my drama classes became. I was teaching self-worth after a while, once, I fully was awake to the spirit within myself and with others. I had one South African student. The kids would always, I'd ask them to take their shoes and socks off so they could feel the floor and the earth and just be free. And I would ask them to be in clothing that they could move in. And we'd sit in circles at the beginning to check in and sort of get a lay of the land for the class session. And then we would come back together if there was time in that final circle. And when the kids were all rushing off to put their shoes and socks on, Viwe leaned over, whispered in my ear. She said, my name was Mrs. Lubon at the time, Mrs. Lubon, you're not really teaching drama, are you? And I said, why, Viwe, what do you mean? She said, you're teaching peace, aren't you? Like inner peace, right? And I said, yes, shh, don't tell the boys. And that beautiful little girl, I'll just finish my answer to this question. That beautiful little girl had come from a background of sexual abuse from a stepfather in her South African family background. And when she left, she was in my program from 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. She was like the star. She was a comedic, brilliant little girl. Big girl, actually, just a big presence. And she wrote me a letter that I carried around for years and it made me cry every time I read it. And it said, you never used the word God in your teaching, but it's because of you that I now believe in God again, because she had suffered so much trauma as a child. And so, yes, we all show up, and I wanted those kids to shine. And theater production, there is a difference between creative drama and productions. So creative drama is a classroom, it's a process, it's social drama. Production, though, there was something that happened to those kids in terms of their self-confidence and their self-worth and their sense of being when they were there communicating to an audience. But it's a tricky bridge to not have that, and whatever might happen on stage for kids, not have that ruin them and their self-esteem for the rest of their lives. So it was a fascinating journey, and I learned a great deal about myself and about resilient little souls in those students.
I love it. I love it. I had a privilege of working with a project between Safe Space Station, which was for runaway kids, and Emblem House, which is a battered women's shelter in Cleveland. And the project was called "What's Love Got to Do with It?" And we got volunteers from junior high and high school, and we have no idea really what their backgrounds were. Some kids were in and out, but some stayed. It was a number of weeks project, and we taught them improvisational theater, improvisational skills. Rape crisis people came in and taught them about cycle of violence. These kids put together with barely any props or anything, put together their own skits. and went into the schools. I'm getting shivers. We booked into a number of schools, some high schools and a junior high, and made presentations of different situations and how to be respectful and how to help get someone out. The only situation we had was at a junior high school because the kids started to relate. They couldn't separate the actors from what was being done on stage. So they started to get a little riled, but it was an amazing experience, and how much they just intuitively went towards solutions. And you know, you don't have to live like this. We didn't give them that dialogue. They came up with it on their own. So they're amazing to work with. So I appreciate you sharing about your experience. How about the rest of you sharing with children? Huh?
Also had, because I'd written the 2 children's books, taken one of my children's, that one, around the schools. And the crazy thing was when the children, because they come straight from energy and then closer to oneness in itself, these are little kids, like 4 or 5 years old. When the teacher was in front of them, trying to, you know, involve the book, which is imagining things, when her reality was more on, you know, imagine a new universe, because of her limitations, and the children would pick up on that, they would only come up with what she would pick up on because they want to fit in and be in this reality, you know, just like everybody else. So they would pick up on this space and the planets and the suns and then I stepped up with my vast imagination, and all of a sudden they're talking about frozen stars and, you know, galactic fairies that were floating all around the world, and so, you know, all sorts of really wonderful things. So it does depend on the reflection with the children on who's standing in front of them and what they can feel as accepted in this, in the reality as we move forward teaching them. That was a really, involved sort of a session. Also, I've put together a score as well a few years back, and we used to do all sorts of different wonderful things to try to activate the right hemisphere so that they could find that balance within themselves. And I always found that when the parents were around, even though they wanted to learn as well, that their limitations would stop the children from becoming more. And so I ended up separating the parents and saying we're starting a new class for parents as well as doing children.
Good for you. Yeah. How many kids, you know, they see fairies and they see unicorns and they see, you know, little people, wee people in the forest, and then they come home and they try to share that, and the parents or the teachers say, oh, you're just imagining that. Well, yeah, you're in the imaginal world, right? I'm sorry, I think, who was it, Vicky or?
That's all right. Yeah. Bobby, I just wanted to comment on that. Thank you so much. It's just a great explanation of how wonderful it's going to be to speak with children and have a very open presence and allow them to explore all of their origins and understandings. I mean, I too have been teaching children in schools for a long time and hold a space for that. But the way that you've just described that is really wonderful, how much broader their experiences were when you were in front of the class. So I just wanted to thank you for putting that so succinctly, because it's an experience I've had that I haven't actually recognized in quite the way you described it. So I just want to say thank you.
Vicky, I was just going to say in that comment of yours, Vicky's actually worked at my daughter's school, and what she brought to the school in terms of the children's awareness. I don't think you realised that you were doing that already, Vicky. Because I know those kids really looked forward to your sessions. I was going to add to that about 10 years ago, I wrote an album for children, because I do go into schools and do regular performances at schools where they all get a turn on the drums and and so forth. And it's all about them working together and recognizing that we're all in it together, and to create music together, we actually need to be able to listen with our entire bodies. But I did find it interesting when I was doing that kids CD about 10 years ago. The last song was actually, the last one was a meditation, which was completely channeled, but it was so much fun. All these different characters coming together, and the dream dragon, and they were able to go to the land of Casbaris with the Zum fish, and Grandma Francesca pulls out her giant bubble blower and we all hop into the bubble, and we meet the Zum fish and the Piff-Wop spiders. And the whole point of the meditation was to give children the strength to be able to encourage adults to see their imagination and the dreams coming true. And one of the lines in it is like, even though just because you can't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And sometimes adults needs help with this. And so we'd blow on our hands and we'd make these wishes and go and send them out to the universe to go, oh, look, there's the fuzzy bear sitting on a chair, and all these dreams. That was Casbaris. And children are just so important. And you know, Gloria, good on you for sticking in the school system, because I couldn't do it. I actually had to leave. I'm so passionate about children and what they bring into the world, but I couldn't stay. I was just so upset about the way that the politics within the school ran, that it wasn't about the individual child. It was about the agenda of the school. And, you know, I'd be crying.
Well, I don't want to get graphic, but literally I donated a gallbladder to the cause. That's how stressful it was.
Oh, it's full on. Good for you.
It made me ill, you know, over the years, because it's just trying to stay with what you're passionate about and seeing what it does for the kids. You know, and we've all dealt with parents too, haven't we? Because we had a predominance of Chinese and Korean parents, where these kids, at the end of the school day, they are tutored until they drop dead at night and fall into their beds. And they would come to me as a drama teacher and say, "Can you tell me why my child has a B?" I said, "Your child doesn't even speak English as a first language. Take them out for dinner and praise them and celebrate them, because this is phenomenal." You know, just because the grading system, you know, those of us that we don't resonate with grading kids and competition, and so it was less and less and less of that, and trying to be in a system where you had to be accountable and all of that. So I was in conflict with the authorities all the time. I was in trouble, and I would do these out there productions, a 20-minute where we would start from the time of the Big Bang, and we'd only use music, and it would be a dramatized thing to music. And one high school teacher turned to my assistant principal and said, "My God, she's really out there, but I love it." And he looked at her like, "Who are you talking about? She's weird and she's just woo-woo." And and they got rid of me at some point, but it took them 25 years. I hung in there for 25 years.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
That's so incredible. Well done, you. Like, really well done, you. Because I took my girls away from school and said, "You're not doing homework for the first, all of primary school." I said, "You're just not doing homework." And the school teacher's like, "Why not? We do, our revision." And I said, "Because they get enough left logical brain work at school, and they don't need it when they come back. They need to now get into their imaginative right brain side and find balance within themselves." Do you know what? I have one daughter that's 32, and she is a scientist over in Sweden now. I have another daughter that's 18, and she's just shines so bright. She's going to be a school teacher, but she could be whatever she wants, AA student. And same with my 16-year-old. And not because I, dictated what they had to be like, but because I gave them this bigger, broader sense of the education outside of the norm. And that made a huge difference to the way that they felt about themselves and what they were going to create in this world. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we have a few minutes left. Would you all, Vicki, you want to say something?
Yeah. I'm just loving how we've all synchronized with children. You know, we've done our presentations, and it's like we've all funneled into this one area and recognizing the power and the importance of the divinity of the children and what we're all really here for, that future. So I'm just so excited that we're touching that together and celebrating what we know is coming. So I'm just so grateful from inside. Like, I'm so grateful that somehow all of us have kind of ended funneling with that one point. This is all about these children and the future. So it's amazing.
Maybe we should all work together then.
Yes, I've been thinking.
Maybe we should be doing something, hey?
Yes. I was the phrase I'm getting is creative company. Creative company. we could form a creative company. And I have a story behind that name, but that's for when we Zoom together down the track, if we'd all like to do that. Because we could do it virtually first, right?
Yeah, are we all from Australia or are we from New Zealand?
I'm in Melbourne.
Wow.
Where are the rest of you?
I'm in Queensland.
Okay.
Vicky and I are in Barara Heights in Sydney. We go walking together.
So we're all along the east coast. Somewhere, Melbourne.
Anything is possible. Anything is possible.
Yes.
I think that would be awesome. Again, one of the cool things that have been happening between the presenters that I've had the privilege of being a moderator for is this. People deciding, hey, we want to stay in touch and we want to do more work together because there's such a synchronicity, and I love it. I just love that that's what we're birthing.
Deb, where are you? Not to exclude you at all, because you're a theater singer. Where are you located? Where are you?
I'm in Kingman, Arizona.
Well, anything's possible.
Absolutely. Thanks to Zoom, right?
Yes.
Thanks to Zoom. All right. Well, do we have any concluding remarks from anyone? We're about 6 minutes away, and we have some of our next group is in queue. So I want to make sure everybody has a chance to,
I'm trying to type in my email address so we can all get in touch. And that includes you too, Dev.
Okay.
Yes.
We can share ideas together. It's so awesome. But someone sent me a message and, oh my gosh, I'm not good with this stuff. Okay. Okay, I'm going to keep trying to work out how to send you my email.
Okay. I see, it looks like Bobby's email. Got that. Actually, you all should have each other's email because I sent you an email that said, here's the order you're going to be in. But you may be giving us a different email. So, okay, I'm copying. I'm copying and pasting as fast as I can. I love it. Well, I think this is about the best conclusion we could possibly come to, eh?
Yes.
I'm loving the diversity that we would bring together as well. Like we've got a synchronicity and a diversity. I think that's super exciting. And we've all worked with children.
Vicki, can you host a retreat for us on your property?
It's pretty nice, eh?
We all come and I'll lead some sacred dancing. We'll all sing. We'll all do improv, and we'll create a program for Creative Company that we'll send around the world.
I love it.
How's that for a vision?
I love it. I got so excited when the first, lockdowns happened on with Corona thing, because immediately you saw, I loved the one like in Italy, where you saw people that were locked down and they were in their apartment buildings and they were out on their balconies and they were singing back and forth to each other and playing instruments. And it made my heart open and it gave me chills. It's like, you cannot keep down the human spirit. You really can't, and there was, and huge orchestras and choirs coming up with Zoom concerts. I don't even know how they coordinated, but there's just been amazing things happen through Zoom with this whole thing. It's like a whole new level of art,
I was just going to add to that. Through Zoom, I did one of the first team buildings I did online. We recorded everybody's parts where we used household products like pens and paper, everything. And then we overlaid it over a pre-existing composition that I'd done with percussion. But because I knew there was 100 people, I recorded like 100 stops, 100 claps. And then we recorded and we put all their parts together over the top. And it was such a good way of demonstrating the unseen connection. We could be doing stuff like that. It is so cool.
I just had a vision download just now of the five of us doing, a virtual musical creation with rhythm and, maybe even sharing visions, Vicki, just language that is new thought. And Vicki, I have a very quick story that I wanted to share connected to my New Earth guides. I went to another channel at the beginning when they first started coming through to me, and I just wanted confirmation. You know how you do when you're, just sort of launching into something like that. And I just said, can you tell me more about these guides? And the terms that they used? We are what we would say new thought guides. I'm not kidding you. Do you know what I thought they meant? Because I am a Unity ordained chaplain, and I was involved as a musical minister and guest minister in the Unity Church. Unity was founded by Charles and Myrtle Fillmore. They were the New Thought movement in the mid-1800s to have us reframe how they looked at Jesus as the way shower and the new thought, to reframe with new thoughts about what he was really here to teach. And so I thought that they were confirming that that's been part of my spiritual journey. They just confirmed that the way you described the new thought, I've got chills just talking about this. You all are hearing this before my own beloved husband gets to hear this, that they were whispering to me as you were speaking, that's what we were talking about. That's the new thought we were talking about.
Wow. Well,
so I'm just sharing a confirmation right here online for the five of us.
I love it. And I am so honored and thrilled to have been able to be a moderator and to be now included in a collaboration. I am excited and thrilled to death. Thank you so much. And again, I encourage you to come back for the final celebration. I think it's at your time, 3:30. Yes. Okay. And we will talk soon. We will
come back because I'm going to dance with you all, actually.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.